how do you sum up what your job actually is, what your role is?
Well, my job is to accompany the professional life of people. And when I say accompany the professional life, means that in the very beginning, when you are kind of thinking who I am and what am I going to do in my life, and then going together all the stages of this process. So I would say that the first is know yourself. That's the first question we have, and then we obviously go through it. Then once the client has an idea, more or less clear idea of who he is, then the next question is what I want. Let's suppose you have the what I want. Then you go on, so what's the career in order to get what I want? Then once you have the career, then you go on, what's the job? Then once you have the job, then you say, okay, this is a job. How do I get it? So then I accompany you in all the selection process. Now let's suppose you get the job, you're in. Then I accompany you in doing well, being happy whilst working. Then probably the client will like to make progress. Well, not necessarily upwards, but progress. Then I accompany him in that progress. And then we get to the moment when you say, well, I would like to change. So I accompany that moment of leaving behind the old job and going into the unknown again. And so we start again with the question, what do I want?
And that's coaching.
Exactly. So the cycle starts again. And I would say I do this cycles with my clients for all along the professional life.
And is it mainly people who want jobs or work in the EU, the institutions?
I would say mainly, but would it be unfair to my other clients to say only them? Because I have clients in working in different companies, international companies. I have a lot of expats in Brussels, but not necessarily all of them work in the EU. No.
Is there something particular about the EU and its institutions compared to other organisations? Is there something very particular about working for the European Union?
I would say that. I would say yes. There is something like a need to work for the common good, a need to work for a big project, a need to work or a call to engage in something bigger than yourself. Now you could do that working in an international company. It's kind of big, it's big goal, it's bigger than yourself and so. But the point with the EU is working for a common goal, common good, common goal, and a lot of my clients do have this characteristic, which is, well, mine obviously.
Yeah, so it's not a typical employer.
No, it's not a typical employer. And I would say that the first question, coming back to the questions of my clients, why do you apply for a job, is because I want to contribute to the European project. I want to be part of Europe, if you want.
How difficult is it to get a job in the European Union?
Well, I would say it's difficult, but I would say it's difficult. And, when you hear 30,000 person applying for the 85 competition, this is really big number, right? But then it's a question of being serious, preparing yourself, being very determined, perseverant. There is a lot of training to be done, and obviously it would be good to have coaching in the beginning of the process, and then it's a lot of training, it's a lot of practice. And it's possible. There are so many who have done it.
So it seems difficult, but it's doable.
It's doable, absolutely. It's doable. Certainly there is a lot of determination and perseverance and work behind it.
So, I mean, the process for getting your first job is called a concours, isn't it?
Yeah, a competition.
What does that actually involve?
I would say that, well, this is what I'm doing to my clients, with my clients. So the first thing is to do an application form. And sometimes the application form is fundamental because it's very kind of complicated, sophisticated, and you have to write it well. And sometimes next to the application form there's a talent screener, which is again a good piece of writing. So this is the first stage. Then you go on the preselection test. The preselection test, there are 4 or 6 sometimes, and the preselection tests are reasoning. So we are talking about verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning, situational judgment. So they are reasoning tests. Again, it's doable. You could make good scores because you have to have about 96% result. So it is really competitive.
96%?
96% to pass, to move over the preselection test, to be selected for the next phase. Still, it's doable, right? So this is the test, the preselection test. Then you go for an assessment center. The assessment center takes a whole day, let's say, and during this assessment center you have tests that simulate the real situations in the professional life. So you will have a written exercise. Well, this is what you do in the professional life. You do written exercises all the time, case studies or however you call them, but this is a written piece, right? The second thing you do, an oral presentation. This is what you do in life. This is what I do today, right? So an oral presentation is what you are asked to do in the assessment center. Then you will have a group exercise. Obviously, this means working in a team. Like probably you work, all of you, in order to do this interview, right? And then the fourth thing is a structured interview, which is an interview where you will talk about why do you apply, why you are the good candidate, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, failures, successes, going through your professional life in order to support the argument that you are a good candidate. So once you have done the assessment center, then you are on the reserve list. And hopefully you will be chosen. But doesn't mean that you will get the job, right? That means that you are invited to an interview. And then again, for this interview, you have to prepare. Obviously, you are not the only one selected from the reserve list, and you are not the only one invited. So it's another hurdle in your parcours du combattant.
What does that mean?
Parcours du combattant is the trajectory of the fighter.
Right. Okay. I mean, it sounds very grueling. Is it?
Well, it sounds.
Yeah.
I did especially for you.
Yeah. But I noticed
to dissuade you to participate in the competition.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this way, I diminish the numbers, and my clients will have bigger success.
Oh,
right?
I see. Okay, you just don't want me to compete with your clients. That's what it is.
That is exactly.
It seems to me that quite a lot of what you're doing is about demystifying it, making it seem less mysterious, less difficult.
Well, I would say yes. This is one thing, but the second thing is explaining every single stage of the competition and helping my clients to learn how to, and then accompanying them in that practice. Because in the beginning, so in the coaching session, we do together the exercises so they see how they are, and I help them to understand and to I would not say demystify the exercise, but kind of simplify the exercise and understand the exercise and do it with me here. So once they have done it, they leave the session saying, "Oh my God, but it's not so complicated." Oh, by the way, I will give you a voucher for that. So you come back, I show you how to do a verbal reasoning, even though you are very good in verbal, right? Because you're as a reporter. But still, the verbal reasoning in the competition is not easy.